Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our cybersecurity virtual session. My name is Barbara Agan, and I'm the Director of Member Engagement and Education with ABCO Federal Credit Union. Our presenters tonight are Bill Davey, Chief Technology Officer, and Mark Moore, Chief Security Officer with PCH Technologies. I will now turn the meeting over to Bill.
Thank you, Barbara. Good evening, ABCO members. Welcome to our virtual cybersecurity seminar. Today is January 19th, 2022. Again, my name is Bill Davey. I'm Chief Technology Officer for PCH Technologies. And I'd like to thank the ABCO Federal Credit Union for allowing us to present today. I have over 20 years of IT experience working with and securing businesses in the financial sector, healthcare, and educational system. We work with a wide range of products and solutions, including keeping up with the latest trends and threats that we face in this new cybersecurity paradigm that we're facing today. And I look forward to presenting, and I'm going to hand it over to Mark Moore.
Good evening, everyone. And once again, thank you for allowing us to present. My name is Mark Moore. I am Chief Security Officer for PCH Technologies. I've been in the IT field for over 2 decades, 10 years in cybersecurity, 10 years in system administration, and it's been a fun and entertaining road. We are excited to provide you this presentation, and that's it. Bill, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Thank you, Mark. Now, there's no doubt that 2021 was a rough year for the cybersecurity industry. And we're expecting 2022 to be even more challenging. And there's been an escalation in cyber attacks, as we probably all see on the news and hear across the United States the past few years. And with more people working from home, it paints a worrying picture about where the IT threat landscape is. So we really need to get everyone educated and understand these threats so you can take the proper precautions to avoid being the next cyber victim. And first off, I just want to kind of start off with common tactics and trends. And basically, we need to understand the terminology that we use in the cybersecurity industry so we can understand these tactics that adversaries use to gain unauthorized access. And I'm going to be providing some examples later on in this presentation. But first off, we need to just kind of go over the terminology here. So we have social engineering, which is basically a tactic of tricking you to give up sensitive information. And there are many techniques that fall under social engineering, but this is a general term that is used in the cybersecurity world. Now, one of those techniques is called phishing. And phishing is when an attacker will send you an email claiming to be from a trusted source to get information from you. This can also come via texting as well. So they may try to send you a text, hoping that you respond and provide information back to the adversary or get you to click a link in the text message. Another example would be, let's say if you shop at Amazon and an adversary sends you an email pretending that he's from Amazon, trying to get you to open the email, click links, and provide them your username and password. And sometimes when you click on these links in the email, it can install software on your computer that is no good. Another tactic that is considered a social engineering tactic is called vishing. And that's when an adversary will call you on the phone requesting information about you or one of your online accounts. Their goal is just to try to get information from you over the phone so they can get more access into whatever that they're trying to get access to. So for an example, if a fraudster calls you saying that they're from a bank or a institution, financial institution, and they inform you that there's a problem with your account or credit card, they may ask for like bank account information or credit card information, and you're not sure. You always just want to basically just say, I'll call you back. Just go on the company website, get the main telephone number, and then call them back, because that's the only way you can really be sure that someone is not trying to maliciously try to get information from you for nefarious purposes. Now you have another term here that I'm sure everyone's probably heard of. It's called malware. And that's malicious software that gets installed on your PC by clicking on malicious links or visiting websites from untrusted sources. Now, there's one form of malware. It's called a keylogger, which is malware that would get installed in your computer, whether if you click a link or from a website that is not a safe website or link. And it will install this software on your computer, and it will record all the keystrokes on your keyboard and send back to the bad guy. So let's say, for an example, if you're logging into your banking account information, or if you're shopping on Amazon or logging into FedEx, if you have a keylogger on your computer and you don't know it, that information can just basically be uploaded to the bad guy, and now he has your username and your password for that website. So it's pretty important that you have a really good antivirus protection on your computer to prevent that type of an attack. Now you have another term called ransomware, which I'm sure everyone's probably heard of by now. And that is a form of malware, but it's much more serious. If infected, it encrypts all your files, making them unreadable on your computer. And the only way to recover from it is a backup. Now, there are instances where you could pay a ransom to the bad guy, but that's not typically recommended, because you can make a payment and then the adversary may never give you the ability to get your data back. So we usually recommend not paying a ransom, and hopefully you have a good backup system in place, whether if you're saving your stuff in the cloud or if you have like an external drive, maybe just somewhere else where you can save all your documents and pictures and any other kind of data that you deem important.
And before we move on, Bill, that's one of the things that scares me about ransomware is ransomware has kind of turned into a service where adversaries will sort of sell the ransomware service to another organization, and that organization will then go out and look for victims. Essentially, it's turned into a business model, and that's really is what's been very difficult to see happening in the world today.
Absolutely, and cybersecurity and ransomware is a very big business nowadays. They actually have call centers overseas that particularly handle ransomware calls, believe it or not, because there's so many people getting infected with ransomware that there's actually numbers or email addresses that you can send and call and work out a deal as far as paying a ransom. Now, that's not typically something we recommend, but Mark, you're right. I mean, it's a big business. We're talking about trillions of dollars every year just in cyber breaches and ransomware attacks.
And one of the things that really kind of surprised me, Bill, is when we were talking to that special agent, we were asking about ransomware as a service when other countries are sort of allowing their people to perform these criminal acts because that organization in that country can pay taxes, can pay bribes, can give money back to the state to perform those actions. It was wild to hear that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how it's not only like adversary groups. You know, there are some speculation that, you know, governments may be involved in this, like you said, just to kind of get kickbacks and tax revenue and et cetera. And just want to kind of go over some of the cyber incidents in the news today. I don't know if anyone has heard of this, but there's actually a company called Cronus, and they are a large payroll vendor for thousands of companies across the United States, including FedEx, Whole Foods, hospitals, etc. And excuse me. And they suffered a ransomware attack in mid-December that took down all their cloud services. And as of right now, they're still down, believe it or not. And they're expected to be back online later this month. And this is causing a major burden for those companies because in the finance department, human resources, they're trying to come up with alternate ways to pay their staff, keep track of, paid time off, schedules, etc. And some companies are resorting to Excel spreadsheets to keep track of time. So it's pretty serious. And so far they've been down for about 4 weeks now. Another incident that made the news is Geico. I'm sure everyone's heard of Geico. Geico had a breach a few months ago where adversaries were able to hack into their website and steal driver's license information. And they were actually able to use that information to fraudulently apply for unemployment benefits on people's behalf. We have another incident called Robinhood, which is an online stock trading platform, where the adversary was able to call into support, pretend to be IT, and they gained high-level access to the Robinhood network, exposing all customer information, names and email addresses of all the Robinhood customers. Now, as of right now, there was no money stolen. However, adversaries can use that information to trick Robinhood customers into giving them access to their accounts. So for an example, we have an example of Robinhood, which they were tricked in a phishing attack, which is when somebody called in to get information. And then now the adversary's next move is they're going to perform a phishing attack where they're going to send emails to all Robinhood customers. They're going to pretend to be from Robinhood. They're probably going to have some links in the emails saying reset your password and etc. So adversaries, they perform reconnaissance basically, and their main goal is to get bits and pieces of information from various sources to get to their end goal. And that could just be trying to get access to data or trying to get money out of it. Every adversary's motive is a little bit different. So these are just some of the things that I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention of different threats and there's plenty of different breaches that occurred in 2021. But I tried to pick, the latest ones that happened over the past couple months.
And the one that really shocked me the most is Baltimore. Baltimore's city, the actual city of Baltimore had a ransomware attack in 2019 that shut down the government. They took about $18 million of damages by the time they were able to get their systems back online. It impacted courts, it impacted the ability to schedule events, it impacted everyone down that was part of that whole entire government body. So it's an ongoing market, and it's always amazing that this isn't a new business model.
Yeah, and basically everyone's a target. I mean, you could be somebody in the public sector, in the private sector, or you could just be a regular home user. I mean, there's no one really, excluded from this. Another pretty big thing that happened in 2021 was, and Mark can probably explain this a little better than I can, but the MUA, one of the MUAs, the water companies down in Florida in 2021, one of their systems got breached, and it was a really big concern because there was concerns that they would put something malicious in the water supply. So luckily that didn't happen, but when you start getting into critical infrastructure, breaches, hacks, ransomware attacks, it could have a really damaging effect to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
So this is one example that I have here of a phish email. Now, do you see my mouse move, Mark? Is my mouse moving or?
I can. Yep, you're good.
Wait. Okay. So if you look at the from field, so you have an email here saying that it's from PayPal, and it says your account is limited. Now, there's a few things that you can look for to see if this is a valid email. So the first thing you have to ask yourself is, do you even have a PayPal account? If you don't have a PayPal account, just delete the email and then just move on with the rest of your day. If you do have a PayPal account, you want to look at the from field. Now, the from field should say it's coming from paypal.com. And as you can see here, it doesn't say that. So that is an indicator that more than likely that this is a phish attempt, a phish email to try to get you to perform an action. Another indicator is warning your account was limited. Now, the adversary is always trying to create a sense of urgency. They're trying to create a panic because they want you to panic and they want you to make a mistake. So always keep that in mind when you receive an email that has that type of feeling towards it. Typically, when you click the link, it will direct you to a website. And as you can see in the address bar on the top, if this was an email coming from PayPal, it should direct you to a link to PayPal, and it does not. So that would be another indicator to look for. And as you can see here, they want you to put in your email address and password. And when you do that, being that this is a malicious website here, it will upload your email address and password to the bad guy. So once you type it in, you hit log in. You may not know it, you don't see it, but on the back end in the code that you can't see, it's actually capturing that data and sending it to the bad guy. Another indicator is there's a lot of misspellings. Since a lot of these phish emails and attacks that are going on in the United States, most, but not all, we're typically going to see misspellings either in the email or on the website. So that's another thing that you want to kind of keep in mind. Now here we have another example of an email saying that it's from Amazon.com, looks legit, but when you look at the from field again, it's not coming from Amazon. It's close, there's a little misspelling, and the adversaries will try to do everything they can to make it look close, but as you can see, it does not say it's coming from Amazon.com. So that's one indicator there. The dear client, it's just a generic term. You know, normally you would see something more specific to you with your first name. Not all the time, but just something to keep, you know, on the lookout for. And then the link below, there's always a link in the email. Now, when you look at the link on the surface, it looks fine. It says Amazon.com. But if you hover the mouse over the link, you can see it will redirect you to another site that is not Amazon. So if you see that, where you hover a mouse over the link and it goes to some other weird site that doesn't make any sense to you, do not click the link. More than likely, it's a phish email. Well, let's say you do click the link. It will bring you to, this is just another example, it will bring you to another website where they immediately want you to download software and install software on the computer. And there'll be pop-ups, there'll be prompts asking you to hit OK, download, update. This would be a major red flag, a major concern, because they are trying to get you to install malicious software on your computer. And we highly recommend multiple security solutions that Mark will kind of get into later in this presentation. But you definitely want to have some form of like antivirus on the computer. And even if you have antivirus, it's not 100%. There is no golden goose. There is no one-stop solution. So, but the more protections that you have in place, it will be able to stop a lot of the threats that are out there. Now, this is a really popular one, tech support scams. I hear about this all the time, and it's basically a website that just pops up on your computer. It could be maybe you're just going on Google or a search engine and you're searching for something to buy, and you click, random links. Some of these links are malicious, and they will put up pop-ups on your screen to try to scare you, and they'll say you have a computer virus on your computer. Or maybe it'll be like a Microsoft message that pops up on your computer saying you have a virus, please give us a call. I can assure you that 99.9% of the time, if you ever get a message like that, that looks like a web browser, it covers the entire screen, saying you have a virus, it's fake. Just close it out. Just close out of all the windows. If you have an antivirus on the computer, I would run antivirus just to make sure, run a full system scan, just to make sure that nothing got installed in your computer. Now, let's say you did call. What would happen is you would get somebody on the phone pretending to be from some IT company. And the first thing they're going to ask you is, typically these websites, they have like codes on them. There'll be like a code or some type of randomized number, and they want you to provide that to them over the phone because they have a way of like tracking the computer. And also they're going to ask you, they would like remote access to your computer. So they're going to tell you to go to a website. You're going to give them the ability to remote into your computer because you think that they're trying to help you. So you're going to go along, you're going to get them access to your computer, and they're going to do some, just some basic stuff on the computer, pretending to be working. But what they do is they install malicious software on your computer. And then the next thing you know, your computer can't even run, can't even operate. Sometimes it'll crash, it'll just shut down. Then they're going to ask you for credit card information for you to pay them so they can work with you on fixing a problem that they created. So this is just another scheme that's out there, another scam that you just want to be aware of. And, cybercrime is a big business, and they're always trying to find ways to make money, from people that are just basically, surfing the web. Basics of credit card security. Now, all the adversaries out there, they are trying to get your credit card data, okay? They want your credit card numbers. It's a big business, and what they do is they typically will send out these phish emails. You click the link, maybe it wants you to buy something. You put your credit card information in there, and then they have a way of capturing that information, like I showed earlier, where they capture your username and password. It's the same thing with the credit card. So you just want to be very careful on the websites that you go to. Look at the address bar on the top. I mean, if you want to shop at Amazon.com, make sure it says Amazon.com in the address bar on the top of the screen, just to be safe. And here are some, just basic practices of keeping your card data safe. You never want to store your credit card information on a website. If a website asks you if you like to store your information, I would recommend saying no. It's the same thing if you're going on any website that requires you a username and password. They ask you, do you want to save your username and password because it's very convenient? The next time you go to the website, it just signs you in. But just be aware when you do stuff like that, yes, it's convenient, but there also is some risk to that too, saving and storing passwords on your computer. Another thing that I would recommend is you always want to keep your software up to date on your computer and mobile devices. You know, if you have a virus on your computer and you don't know it, you know, or like a keylogger, like I was talking about earlier, if you're typing your credit card numbers on your computer, it's possible it could capture that information. So you always want to make sure your computer and your phones, iPhones, Samsung, iPads, you always want to make sure it's up to date, because these companies like Microsoft and Apple and Samsung, there's always vulnerabilities coming out that they're discovering, and they're creating these fixes that are put in patches so to protect your computer or your mobile device from a bad guy trying to exploit that vulnerability. So it's just something you want to just keep them in mind. You never want to visit any unknown websites. So you just want to make sure that websites that you're going to, websites that you're buying stuff off of, that they are legit websites. Like we all know Amazon.com is a legit website, but there's a lot of these other companies that are out there that are starting online businesses. So you just want to, you know, take precautions and just, you know, have the understanding that, you know, whenever you use your credit card on the computer, there is some risk. So you may want to just call the company and just verify that they are a valid company, just to protect you and to protect your finances. You never want to text or email your cardholder information, because let's say you type in your credit card number, security code, and you email to someone. Sometimes I see people email to themselves directly. This way they have it on the computer or an email that's accessible anywhere. Just keep in mind that if your email ever gets compromised and an adversary is able to get into your email through some of the attacks that we talked about earlier, now they have access, you know, to your email and your credit card information. And basically any other sensitive information that you put in an email. Just always keep that in mind, that if my email gets compromised, the information that I put into my email, is this going to be okay if a bad guy were to get that? So that's just, you know, there's some pros and there's cons as far as convenience compared to, you know, just the risk that could occur if your email account gets compromised. And even text messages, you know, we're seeing stuff in the news now where, you know, people's text messages are being exposed by carriers now. So that's something that, or even there's ways that where they can hack, you know, text messages. So these are just, you know, things that you want to be aware of and the threats that are out there. And then finally, last but not least, you know, never take a picture of your credit card. I do see people do that. And when you take a picture of your credit card, let's say on your iPhone, most people have the iCloud set up, right? So, because you want to back up your iPhone. So the iCloud has a feature where you can back up, you know, your iPhone into the cloud. So, which is very convenient. But what happens if your iCloud account gets compromised? Now they have access to all your pictures. Now they have access to any type of sensitive information that's out there. So these are just some of the things that I would recommend on trying to keep your credit card data safe. And from here, I'm going to hand it off to Mark Moore to discuss the cybersecurity best practices. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bill. So one of the concepts we want to touch lightly on is we talk about layered security, and sometimes we may refer to it as defense in depth. When we as cybersecurity professionals, when we're creating security for our organization, we have multiple ways to sort of protect a type of asset. So if we take that and translate it to your home use, for you personally, you want to start looking at protecting your cyber assets, and whether that's data, your credit cards, or any pictures, videos, or anything that you find valuable, you really want to take a look at how you're protecting it. You may want to do a local antivirus, a good one. You may want to do a local malware scanner, something that allows you to have multiple layers of protection. In case one misses the protection, you have something else available. And one of the things I know that Bill has mentioned is we started talking about data and getting good data backups in case of ransomware. Most modern systems have the ability to use something like iCloud or OneDrive, a solution that will allow you to take your critical data, things that you, again, value as important, and you can back them up online somewhere. You really want to make sure that you're not having all of your critical data just sitting on your local machine, your local phone. You really want to go out of your way to take an actual backup of that, just get it off that device somehow. And when we talk about cybersecurity, it really is made up of people, processes, and technology combined. So when we're talking about cybersecurity, you're really trying to roll all these things up. It's not just I'm secure because I have a local antivirus, or I'm not secure, or I'm secure because I've done updates. It's all these things combined that's going to really make a difference in your lives. You do. Next slide for me, Bill. So one of the things that's, I think really important for you to think about is you really want to stop before you act. And I know that sounds silly, but with a computer, you can make an action in a second or two. So you might click on a link really quickly. You may say an email and you may not pay attention and you may just click on that link. So what you really want to do is be careful, stop, take a look at that email. If you're not expecting it, if it's out of the blue, if it's at a different time when you normally communicate to this person, you really want to take a look at it before you take an action. And you also want to sort of verify the information you're being told. Scammers will have a tendency to try to impersonate companies and essentially what they're doing is Apple, right? So if you get an email from Apple and you have an iPhone, you may be more prone to act. If Apple is sending you, we've suspended your account because it's Apple, you may feel the urge to take a look at that quickly. But what you can do, as opposed to just clicking on that link, you can verify that in another way. You can either open up another tab, go directly to Apple. You don't have to click on that link. You can verify that other information in another form. And one of the things that we also thought of, because you are ABCO and ABCO members, you really want to make sure that you're not wiring any money outside. One of the things people will do is you may get a request for a data transfer, a money transfer, and you don't want to just do that. You want to also confirm that in another avenue. You can get on the phone and call. You can get on a separate email to that vendor, whoever it may be. You just don't want to wire without confirming that information. Next slide for me, Bill. And one of the things that we're really trying to get people to do is really start limiting how you store personal identifiable information, your social security number, your credit card information, your driver's license, things that are critical. In the past, people used to keep that information in their email. And as Bill mentioned, if your email system is breached, all that data could be sitting in there. You could still have that information in your email from 10 years ago. For some of us that are slightly older, I've had an AOL, I probably had an AOL account when I was younger. And if I was still using that account, I would have 20 some years worth of personal identifiable information just sitting there. So if someone was ever able to get that information, it would be intense. And what we also are recommending is you really don't want to, as Bill had mentioned, you really just don't want to take pictures of your credit card. You don't want to send your credit card information, especially if you're not doing it in some sort of secured method. Most modern systems, most companies have avenues to allow you to send secure information. There are the ability to send encrypted emails. You can do what they call zipping up a file. You can password protect Excel spreadsheets, things like that. So you really want to go out of your way to, when you find that someone's asking you for critical information, things that are important to your life, that you take the extra step to make sure that data is secure somehow. There are various tools, but like I mentioned, an encrypted email if you have to. Bill, can you move to the next slide for me? So as we keep on talking about backups, for us, backups are critical. As a home user, you can use something like OneDrive. You can find a way to automate backing up your critical data. As I mentioned, you also want to encrypt any personable identifiable information. And again, we call that PII. Take a minute or two, again, as you send that data out, make sure it's encrypted. If you're storing it locally, make sure you know where that is. Make sure you know what critical data you have sitting on your system. And we would strongly recommend that you review what you're backing up from time to time. For our clients, we do that a lot more frequently, but as a home user, you want to try to commit to making sure that your backups are valid every quarter, twice a year, something that allows you to know in your mind that you've actually taken the time to back up what's important to you. Bill, take me to the next slide. So as we start talking about risk, and at some point in time, no product, no system is 100%. So any antivirus you may use is subject to false positives. It may get what they call a 0-day, something that doesn't have a defense yet. You're trying to really reduce your risky behavior. So in that mind, when you're home, on your home systems, you want to make sure that your home Wi-Fi is secured. And if you're joining something like a public network, you really want to make sure that you're not sending any critical data across an open, non-secured public network. Your home networks, you should really go out of your way to secure them with something like WPA2. Most modern systems will support that. If you're not sure, you can always call up Comcast, Fios, anyone to really ask about the security of your home wireless network. One of the last legs of defense is really your local antivirus. Go out of your way to find a good product, depending on what you choose to do online. If you're just going online and you're reading email, you could probably get away with a basic firewall. If you're searching and you're doing research online and you find that you click on links more often than not, you really want to take the time and invest in a solid local antivirus. Next, as Bill mentioned, you really want to keep all your systems updated. I can't stress that enough. Your phone gets frequent updates, your PC gets frequent updates. Any device that you use should have all its updates being applied to it on a regular basis. And somebody will cover that. And for your home system, as we start thinking about defense in depth, most systems have the ability to run their own local firewall. So on my Windows 10 PC, my Windows 11 PC, it actually comes with a local firewall. So if you have that ability, you want to make sure that you also turn that on. Bill, next slide.
Hey, Mark, if I can just add something real quick.
Absolutely.
With the Wi-Fi connections, it's very common. It's very popular for people when they're at a coffee shop, at the airport, at a hotel, when you bring either your iPhone or Samsung device or a laptop, and you connect to those open networks, like Mark said. If you're just doing basic internet browsing, that's okay. But just keep in mind, if you enter any type of credit card information or log into any websites with usernames or passwords, just keep in mind that, and I'm not saying it's all the time, but it is a possibility, whichever public network you're connecting to, they technically have the ability to capture information on their routers, on their networking equipment, meaning like they can be able to record stuff that you're trying to sign into. Now, I'm not saying that happens all the time or all the cases, but just keep in mind, you don't really know who is managing these open networks. You have really no idea what they're capturing and what they're not capturing. So it's just something to keep in mind.
And as you mentioned that, it's almost like they can eavesdrop on what you're communicating. So it's kind of like if you're trying to have a private, important conversation and you're doing it in the middle of the coffee shop, you may not want to necessarily do that. So one of the things you also can do as a home user is you can really take a look at the passwords that you're utilizing. I know some people have a tendency to make it very simple, the name of their children, their spouse, their birthday, their dog's name, but you really want to do strong, different passwords for the sites that you really value. Facebook, Twitter, your bank account, your financials. You really want to start separating your passwords, and you really want to use a strong password. Simple things that someone else can guess can easily, in this case, be guessed. We've seen passwords being dumped from very large sites, and in the past, people would use password 123, their dog 12, et cetera, et cetera. So get used to using strong, different passwords. I've seen people use password books. I've also seen people use a password manager. So speaking of password managers, if you're not the type to use a password manager, something like LastPass, you can also do something like a password book. If you're securing that book and you're home safe, something along those lines, you're better using different passwords on different sites and securing it in either a password manager or a password book, as opposed to just reusing the same password over and over again. And the one thing that I've been doing for my own family outside of work is making sure that everything has multi-factor authentication. Even if somebody gets your password, that multi-factor, that second layer of protection, that defense in depth, will help secure that site, that data from an adversary. So most applications, most systems, most financials, they offer multi-factor. Make sure if they offer it, you take advantage of it. Go to the next slide.
One more thing, if I can just add to that, Mark. I mean, for me personally, what I do is I have a separate email address and a separate password to pay bills. And then I have another email address and password for social media. And then I have another email address for another, type of service that I use. So these are it just depends on how far you want to take it, how secure you want to be. These are the protections that I put in place. I don't just have one email address for everything, because if that one account gets compromised, then a lot of the services that I use would be in jeopardy of possibly being compromised. So I try to limit the threat as far as isolating it down to only a few services, because if something were to happen, then you don't have to scramble and change everything and so forth. So
and for you, that's sort of a risk-based conversation. You're actually doing a risk-based thought. You really want to eliminate some of the risks you have by separating your accounts depending on what they're for. And that's absolutely fantastic.
All right, this concludes our virtual seminar, Cybersecurity, today. I hope everyone enjoyed their time. And if we have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
One person asked about, can you recommend good antivirus software? And I'm sure a lot of people would like to know. I'd like to know if mine is a recommended software.
Yeah, that's all. Go ahead, Bill.
There are a few really good products out there that you can acquire. WebRoot is a good one. SentinelOne is a good one. CrowdStrike is a good one. Cylance is good. Those four there are four that I could think of off the top of my head. Mark, do you have any other ones you want to add?
So for me as a home user, because some of those, the ones you mentioned are also enterprise level products, they may not necessarily have a public single-use license. Some of them do. But as Bill mentioned, if we could choose our top ones, we would recommend SentinelOne if they have a personal single license user or 3 license user. Same thing with Cylance. If you can't get one of those enterprise pieces of software down to a home or public use, you really want to start looking at the larger companies. I know Symantec has a decent system that you can definitely purchase a license on. Your idea is you really want to take a paid for product, and I hate to push paid for products when it comes down to that, but if you're concerned with your risk level and you're doing more than web browsing, you really want to try to find a product that has support, something that's being updated frequently. And in this case, you could use Webroot, and Webroot absolutely has a home license version, as well as something like Symantec.
Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
So I want to thank you, Bill and Mark, for facilitating this session, and I want to thank everybody for attending. Just as an FYI, we do have a library of content from 2021, and we've just launched a new series called Financial Fitness, which covers tips on maximizing our products and services and also includes a fraud alert tip. So hopefully you'll look on our website under ABCO Academy and you can see that information. And then once the recording has been, again, reviewed and approved, I will definitely send that out to all of you. So thank you.
Thank you.